Good morning today, guys. Today we're joined by Tyler Robertson, and excited for him to share a little bit about his perspective with us today on how he's grown his company and a little bit of his background, and excited for him to share. So, Tyler, you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Yeah. Hello, audience. My name's Tyler. I'm the CEO and founder of a company. We're in the B2B space. I started in my garage, dining room table. That whole story is about $1,000. Today, I can say we'll do over 75 million in revenue. We got over 230 employees, and we're still growing about 40% year over year. So we bootstrapped it. We didn't do it the traditional, I guess, the new traditional way of raising money. We did it a different way. So it's been a journey.
That's pretty awesome. What did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur and wanted to kind of work out of the garage and build it up, or is that something that came more, organically?
So my grandfather was an entrepreneur, my father was, but I really liked working for other people. But then I started kind of like this little side hustle to make some beer money, essentially. And I couldn't help myself. I was like, oh, I'll just keep doing this and that and this and that. And all of a sudden, you got a side business making 6 figures a year, but I also had a normal job that was making 6 figures a year, and I was the only income producer in the household. So I had a wife, I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and inevitably I was doing both, working like 16 hours a day, and probably not doing great at either of them. And I got asked by my employer to quit my side business or resign. So people always say it's a lot of risk to take, but I was like, well, I'm walking into another job that I already got that pays $100,000 a year. I wonder what I can do if I do it full time, and let's see what happens. And it was, being asked to quit your job or resign is probably the best thing that ever happened to me in hindsight.
Was the side hustle in a business adjacency to the day-to-day job, or was it something that was completely separate?
No, it was. So I work in the commercial truck space. That's where I started. And commercial trucks, I mean, there's dealerships like car dealerships where they sell the new trucks and they service them and they do the parts. And I was in charge of the service department of one of these dealerships. And when you run a service department, you make money by selling labor. And you want to do anything you can to make sure that customer brings you their vehicle. And in the commercial truck world, there is no right to repair. There is no access to tools and repair information that's easily accessible. So customers have check engine lights happening. This is kind of during the period emission requirements and more complexity started introducing into commercial trucks. Customers having problems. They're bringing their trucks in, and we're booked up for weeks. Every truck dealership is, and we love it as a truck dealership because, man, I got 3 weeks of work here. I can charge as much as I want. I'm going to hit my bonuses and all my pay and all these things. And the techs love it. They're making money too. Sucks for the customer because they don't have a truck for 3 weeks. And trucks are tools people use to make money. They're not meant to go from point A to B for leisure to go shopping. That's how they generate income. So if that truck's not moving, it means your business isn't making money. So people are asking, I said, hey, we're going to be a little bit better. Let's walk out to that truck, hook our computers up at the store. Let's see what code they have. Let's see what the issue is. Let's tell these customers if it's serious and have to leave it here, or if they can just come in 2 weeks from now. And customers love that, but they would start to ask, well, how do I buy that software so I don't even have to come to you? I'll just do that myself. Well, you can't have it. That's why we're a dealership. You have to come to me, right? Well, then I got promoted, and they wanted me to run the store, the whole entire store. And they said, before you do that, you need to work in the parts department. So I went and became the parts manager. And in that department, the mentality is different. Their mentality is, if you can make a margin, mark up something and make $1, do it. We don't care if it's a truck part, a cheeseburger, a telephone, or a diagnostic tool. Margin's margin. So same rooftop. I report to somebody different at the corporate headquarters. They have a different mentality. So that's where I started learning the problems. We started selling the software, but these are 55, 60-year-old shop owners. They don't know how to install software and license things and configure the hardware and update firmware. These are beyond their skill sets. They know how to run a business and fix trucks. So then I started actually buying hardware components and software components from my own employer. And then I would buy those and bring them home and put them on laptops and configure them to work. And then I would resell that entire kit back to my employer, and they would then mark it up and sell it to their customers. So now the customers had everything ready to go in the box. And that's where it started. And then I was like, well, if they're buying it just here in South Carolina, surely other people need it. So I put one on eBay. It sold within a day. And then I put another one on, I marked it up even more, sold right away again. And it just took off. I just kept taking all that money I was making and just kept buying. You got to scale. You got to buy more inventory, and I got to deal with receivables and all these things, right? As you scale. So that's how I got started, man. Just trying to help people solve problems.
And so it sounds like it was more helping people that was the driver in terms of alleviating the pain point for the industry and these people who it's their livelihood that they're having to, separate with for weeks at a time.
Yeah, it was never about like, I want to go start a business and go make $1 bazillion. It was like the very first one was like, I just want to help people fix their trucks quicker. Right. And then, your why changes as you grow your business, as you do different things. And my why's constantly change. At first it was, well, now I just want to be able to put a roof over my kids' heads when I got asked to resign, right? Like I need to be able to afford my mortgage payment, put food in their bellies and pay the bills. Like that was my why. But that just changes as you scale and as you get bigger. And I can say that that's obviously no longer my why. We've been profitable, we got cash in the bank, all these things. So that's not why I do it now. And that's why I don't sell the company or do these things today. It's because now I go back to what I really want to do is go change an industry and make this world a better place for all of us and not, doing a bigger cause. So it's been a journey. And I always tell people like, look, I could have never done this. I was late to the entrepreneurship game. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are off in their early 20s before life's really starting to get going. They're starting to create business ideas and do these things. I was 36. And I didn't, I was going to do both jobs until I died at one of them, I guess was my plan. Right. So sometimes decisions are forced on you, but it ends up being the best thing that could possibly happen to you.
So I'm curious, what was, the why started as taking care of the family, roof over the head. What was the next iteration after that when you didn't have to worry about that? And what was your strategic framework, right? In terms of, okay, I've got a different why of where you allocated capital.
Yeah. So like we said, we talked about the first why. The second why was like, okay, providing for my family, making good money here. And I had a choice to make. Like I can either just choose to be great and small, or I can choose to go see how far I can go with this thing. And I'm a guy that wants to see how far things can go. So the next why was, hey, I think I can go actually start a business, employ some people and get a thing going here. Right. So it was moving out of the garage, get in a rental place, hiring some employees that weren't showing up at my house every day because the wife was getting really sick of that happening. And frankly, so was I. So just to start separating it and like, can I create a business here, a business, right? So we got that going, like, man, I can. And then I started thinking like, man, I'm not thinking big enough. Like, I think I can scale this thing. So that was the next why. It was like, is this a scalable thing where we can do this across the country for whoever needs us and in other industries? And then I can say now we're sitting here, like we got a machine going, man. Like it's going good. Revenue is growing great. We're still profitable, all those things. And the why for me has really shifted. Like, okay, like I check that box, like what's next? And it's like I alluded to, it's like, okay, how many people are in the fortunate position to say, I think we have an opportunity to positively impact our industry and put our little, dent in the universe or whatever analogy you want to use. And I really feel that way about our company. And it's a big industry. There's over $80 billion a year spent in parts and labor fixing commercial trucks alone, not including off-highway stuff. And it's a really fragmented industry that needs a lot of help and attention. And we got a lot of problems with employment shortages and supply chain, all these things. But I really believe that our little scrappy company that started 7 years ago in my garage is going to be the ones that come out and be like, hey, we got a thing that's making the world a better place here.
That's awesome. And it's the approach is just very different, right? Because your why is about helping and changing the industry. You'll do things differently that will allow you to evolve and scale in ways that a lot of the competition won't, right? As they look at profitability or bottom line and, being tight to that. It's not profit driven, right? It's impact driven, and that's hard to get to.
It is, and it's that's one of the nice things about bootstrapping is I don't have investors to answer to. So if we want to say we're going to make no money the next 3 years and go reinvest in this thing, we can do that. If we want to say nope, we need to go put 10 million of EBITDA at the bottom line the next 3 years, we can choose to do that. And I don't have to go answer. So there's a lot of pressures that happens when you take outside capital and investment and expectations. And I'm fortunate I don't have to deal with those. But on the other side, I don't have a big, huge pile of cash that I can use, right? Because I don't like debt. We don't have any debt here. And that again gives us some freedom, but you don't have a big pile of $20 million sitting here saying, let's go execute and go do something. Like we don't have that luxury. So there's pros and cons that come with with all those decisions on where you want to go. And I've met plenty of entrepreneurs who said, I'm here to build a business and go sell it for $1 billion. And that's what I'm here for. Then I'm out. And that's fine too. It just, people got to figure out what makes them tick. And for me, I think people look at me a lot of times like, oh, you do it for the money. I'm like, I could care less about that. I care about building this thing over here. The money and revenue will follow if you go solve people's problems. And that's been my mentality here.
As we go back to kind of that decision where you're starting to make more profit, right? You're talking about this spectrum, right, of dropping it all to the bottom line versus reinvesting. Kind of where did you fall as that started to increase? And what was the decision making in terms of how much to reinvest versus how much to take personally?
Yeah. So I guess a couple stories there, right? So number one, like especially the first 4 years, like I couldn't take money out. Like I couldn't even pay myself. I mean, I was probably the lowest paid employee for a couple of years because I needed the cash in the company. Like I think most people underestimate how much cash you need to have if you're going to go double your revenue every year. Like it's an insane amount for just all the things you have to have just to stay afloat and make payroll and pay taxes and all that fun stuff. So the first point I think was probably about 4 years ago now, where a large company found me and they said, hey, we want to invest in you guys. So at that point, I did sell 10% of my company at what I thought at the time was like an insane valuation number. And I kept 90% of it in the company because I was like, well, I really don't have any debt. I don't have anything going on. I don't, what am I gonna do with the money personally? I didn't really have a clear guide path at that point. So I took 10% of it out. I went and bought a lake house and found my love of living on the lake, at least on the weekends at that point in time, and bought a boat and jet skis and some of that stuff. Right. I got kids. So they were, 5 and 7 at the time. So tons of great memories there. But as the company started like scaling, and I can tell people you don't double revenue every year perpetually. Eventually that slows down. So that's fine. But the good part about that happened was that your cash starts to catch up to what your company's doing. And all of a sudden you do find yourself in that spot like, oh, okay, well now I got too much cash in the company, which is the opposite problem that we had a couple of years ago. And as everyone knows, especially now with inflation, having cash sitting in the bank isn't a good place to have it either. You're losing money doing that. And I started to think to myself, I'm like, man, like I don't, well, what are we going to do with it? It's got to be something better than here. So yeah, so now I get the luxury enough where I got, we got strategic plans, we got senior vice presidents. I don't need to be here every day. So now I can go do trips. I did a trip, brought my dad down to Costa Rica for a week and we went fishing, and went to Spain and the United Kingdom for a week. And sometimes I tie in business with those things. Sometimes I don't, but just the flexibility to do that now and not have to be there and put out fires all day and know when you get back, like, hey, things are going to be okay. But now I've been able to like sell that lake house, sell my other house, and buy one big house and live full time on the lake. And it's being able to like have the ability to pull money out of the company. And again, I don't want to do it to hurt the company, but when they have more needs, you got to find a home for it and figure out what to do with it. And trust me, we reinvest more cash back in our business. We still way over invest in our company because I still believe in the long-term mission of the company. And I can tell you, it's only been the last couple of years where I've really cared about valuations. You got to start thinking now, like, okay, where's this going? What's my exit strategy? Am I going to work here till I die? I don't want to give it to my kids. I got no family that works here. Like, what's the plan? So those things, you start thinking about the next why, the next reason for doing things, and it does affect your decisions. And those are things business owners have to think about. And sometimes that takes 30 or 40 years to think through all those things. And sometimes things go fast and you have a short window and you gotta just go with it pretty quick.
As you're starting to explore this idea of valuations, is there anything that you wish you did earlier or implemented earlier?
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. Like a million things, right? So I can tell you, like, we just decided, hey, let's go do an official capital raise. And actually today of all days, right, with you on here, I was like, we were heading down a path. I wasn't liking any options. The market's not great. I'm also not in a hurry. And we paused it and we just said, look, we're going to kick the can down the road a year because yeah, the timing sucks. I wasn't getting the numbers I wanted, but more than anything, I know in my heart, like if I could go back in time and do this a different way, I don't have to sell different products. I just have to sell them in a different way. My company is way more valuable than it is today. So like an example to give the audience is we have these kits we sell customers, and customers buy these kits. They cost $6,000 to $12,000, and they work for a year. And then if you want updates and support and services, you have to buy a renewal package, right? So now we're chasing a customer down every 12 months. That was fine in the beginning, but now that we have tens and tens of thousands of customers, it's real kind of pain in the ass to go track down 1,500 customers a month and convince them to buy renewals. So we started a program 6 months ago, and we said, okay, let's stop doing that. We still want to sell these things, but why don't we just go to customers and say, why don't we just give you a 3-year package? And you don't need to pay me $10,000 up front. You just need to pay me $500 a month for 36 months. You get all these things. So we're still selling the same thing, but the customers actually like it better because they're not having to get tracked down for renewals. They know what they got. They're happy with their products and services. Having a 3-year contract on a customer is obviously more valuable than selling somebody something one time and chasing them down. So that helps on the valuation side. And it's less resources for our employees because now I'm not tracking down thousands of customers every month. I'm only tracking, we're just dealing with contracts and renewals through that process. So, I mean, there's all kinds of examples I give you, but that's just one. But that's what I've realized is, okay, there's probably, besides valuation, it's better for a lot of people in this if we just go approach it a different way. And that's been an eye opener going through this, capital raise process.
I assume that model, though, has a lot of upfront capital that needs to be invested, right? Because you're effectively amortizing both the service as well as the equipment over that 36 months.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely some upfront exposure that you guys would have that more than pays for itself over time. And once you catch in the cycle, but that first, I don't know, year, 18 months is probably super.
So you're talking about risk, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. So you are 100% right. So there's that kit, and there is some hardware costs that are in there, but there's also software licensing, some of which is ours, some of which is third parties. And then the renewals. The renewals are support and services mainly from our company. So we took a look at it, and where we started with was like, okay, we do a 3-year package. What are our out-of-pocket costs, right? And then we said, okay, is there anything we can do to decrease that? So we went to some of these hardware manufacturers and we're like, hey, we're going to do a new thing. Like we want to not pay you up front for that hardware. We want to pay you over 12 months and 12 payments. I'll actually pay you a little bit more, but I want that flexibility and I'll guarantee the payments even, right? But that brought our hardware costs down. The other thing we were able to do is put software on the laptops to permanently lock them down. So if a customer doesn't pay us, we can flip a switch on a website. That laptop, as soon as it's on the internet, anyhow, it's locked down, completely unusable. And I've just kind of protected that asset from getting resold or stolen or whatever. And then we went to the software companies and we said, hey, same thing. I don't want to pay 12 months up front. I want to get billed every single month. And if customers don't pay me, I want the ability to transfer that license, whatever's left, to another laptop that I own. So you start putting these pieces of the puzzle together, and all of a sudden that upfront cost goes from 50% of your gross margin to a smaller percentage. So that allowed us to go to market and be like, oh, well, we don't need to get that $10,000 unit. Man, if we get $2,000 up front, I'm covered if they can never make another payment. I'm protected. So we launched, and we're doing it slow. So we launched that program about a year ago. And then about 6 months later, we looked at it and we're like, well, what's our collection rate? Oh, it's 100%. Like everyone's on this program's paying. Well, okay, that was one of our concerns, right? So now we know we got good payment, we got good processes. Let's go lower the down payment amount by another 50%. And we just looked at it again. We're 6 months in and we're not at 100% collection. We're at like 99.8. So I'm like, okay, people are still paying. The goal is to get it down to just give me your first month up front, press hard, sign once, and let's sign this contract and get you going. And that's a game changer in an industry where people are used to paying $10,000 for a capital goods or a tool. And we're coming to market saying, we're going to give you the tool plus a bunch of services. Just pay me the monthly fee. And again, I'm selling the same stuff. I de-risk myself. And I think anyone listening to this will understand, like, yeah, you got recurring revenue going on there. You got some contracts. Like that's a different game. If you do want to go sell your company or raise capital, it's worth a heck of a lot more than the old model.
Could you put them on a reoccurring contract after that 3? So I come from the cell phone world. I work for T-Mobile, right? Like, could you auto renew them on a year by year, or is there something in the hardware or software that?
No, so that's what we do. So after the 3rd year, what happens? We go back to be like, hey, great, if you re-up your contract, we'll actually swap out your laptop for you, and we'll. By the way, the price, hey, it's inflation price, but your price is the same still, Mr. Customer. because the hardware costs are the first three. There's no more hardware costs really. And we're just swapping out a really inexpensive laptop is essentially all we're doing to kind of hook them in. So yeah, that's the plan, is just keep pushing forward the 3-year renewals. And we tell them, look, the 3-year contract, sometimes you get pushback, but it's like, look, you're price locking. Like, people don't understand that, but now with inflation, people are like, yes, I like that deal. Like, I know my price is going to be, it's fixed for 3 years. And as we come out with new products and services, we just throw it in there. Like, you get all that stuff for free as we keep updating the core product. So like, we're launching a online training curriculum for shops. They can pay a flat monthly fee. This is another example. We have training classes online and hands-on. We used to charge per class, and we're flipping it. We're just saying, hey, why don't you just pay $400 a month? You can have all the online training for all your employees, and you can then go to any of our hands-on centers free. It's all in the monthly package, right? And that's a much better model, again, on something we've already been selling that helps really everyone evolve. And by the way, you buy my kit, you get that training package with it. So it's just combining all these different revenue streams and slicing them up a different way, and really trying to simplify the way we go to market with customers and think long term.
That's awesome. It's awesome to see that evolution and some of those strategic decisions, right? In terms of that risk, the reward, and when you can, and how you shift it, right? And you definitely had to have established relationships with those hardware and the software folks, right, to be able to shift that. And it's worked out great for everyone, it seems like, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's trust, right? And that's, a lot of times people are like, why do I need a relationship with my vendor? It's because you can go have conversations like that and be like, look, if you guys can do this for me, here's the things I think I can do, and we'll grow both our businesses together. I think a lot of people miss that a lot of times, like having those relationships. And I'll say it's with your banker, your financial advisor, your attorney, whoever it is, just having that network out there to really help you. You mentioned strategic plan a couple of times. I mean, we were doubling in revenue, and we were hitting what every company hits eventually, and that's just growing pains. And I didn't understand it. I was the entrepreneur, shoot from a hip. Let's just go do stuff. Why are you guys going so slow? Like, that whole thing. And we had to really take a step back and be like, and we brought a consultant in. We're like, okay, what's going on here? And they're like, dude, it's growing pains. Like, let me ask you a question, Tyler. What's your 3-year plan? What's your strategic mission? Why are you here? Like, what's the goal? And I'm like, I didn't have answers for any of those questions. And it got me to realize, like, okay, like we need to get everyone rowing the boat the same direction. We got to have some top level strategic missions of the company, and drill them all the way down through the organization, and do annual strategic planning, goals, metrics, all these things that we weren't doing. And that's just part of growing up as a company. And I look back on it now, and I realize, like, my dad's company, they've been the same size. Don't get me wrong, they do really well. They make millions. They've been the same size for 10, 15, 20 years. And, and they're at the end of their careers and retirement and all that. So I get it. You're not going to go take risks and do things. But why do companies get stuck at revenue levels? It's because they can't get out of their own way. And that's really the truth of it. And it's really hard for people to get out of their own way sometimes. And I had to change who I am and who I approach my company and the things we do. And that's how you evolve.
What was the hardest part for you in changing that, who you are, how you operate as part of that process?
Yeah, giving up control, man, right? Like, I like, especially when you start your kitchen table, right? I talk to every customer, I do every sale, I package every item, I do tech support, I bring it to the UPS store, like, I do everything. And then you bring in the first employee, and they do it different than you. And for a lot of people, they can't handle that. Like, nope, this is the way we do it. It's micromanaging, it's all these things. And oftentimes they do it better than you did it. So that's been one of the hard parts, is just like giving up control. And we've had bad things happen. I've had hackers break into our Amazon account and steal $40,000. I've had people embezzle money from me. I've had $100,000 deals where we just had it like a PO, and we do the last pitch, and we bomb it and they cancel on it. Like, these are things that happen that are out of your control, but you learn from it. You try not to make the same mistake twice. So it's that. And then I had to come to the realization, like, I don't know all the employees in my company. I don't know all the things going on in my company. And I shouldn't know every little detail going on in my company. I have to, if I'm worried about that, I'm not worried about the next 5 years. And that's where I need to spend my time leading the company, not how's that guy getting his product today, or why is he upset? Like, that's someone else's job here at Diesel Laptops. That's why I paid them a bunch of money to handle those things for us.
Yeah, tough transition for sure. And it's completely different, in the business, on the business, very, very different in terms of how you operate. But
it is. And even now, as we're crossing 75 million, we'll do 100 million next year. I'm already like, okay, like, I hate to be this entrepreneur saying we got to get more corporate structure, but we got to get more corporate structure. Like we got, there's things you have to do if you want to get to 100 million, 200 million, 300 million. You can't operate and structure your company like you did before. You need other resources, other pieces of the puzzle. And it's tough making those big leaps, but it's, again, I'm not the person to sit here and be content with what I got today. I'm always like, we can do better. Like, let's go figure out how to be better as a company.
Yeah. The things you got away with when you had 10, 20, 50, 100 employees are very different once you start cresting those bigger numbers.
There is no way. Like I just remember hitting that point where I didn't even know like the employees' names in my company. I used to be able to tell you like all the employees, their spouse's name, their kid's name. I'd bring them to lunch. Like those days are long gone. Now it's almost like when I walk through and talk to people, it's almost like I cause chaos more than they do anything else. Because if I'm asking them a question about whatever's in they're working on, it must be important to me, right? And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to like be friendly and understand. Don't go spend the next 3 weeks working on a thing based on my 2-second conversation or comment. It happens.
Yeah. You spin them sideways unintentionally, right?
It's unintentional chaos, I call it, when I start asking questions on stuff. So I've learned to try to be at least a little bit more cognizant of that.
That's funny. As we're approaching the end of our time here, Tyler, if you wanted to leave one piece of advice or one nugget for the entrepreneurs who are listening today, what would that thing be?
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't clear on where they want to get to, right? They're in the moment, they're doing a thing, they're excited about it. I'll go back to what I said earlier. If I would have been focused on, hey, creating company value, I think the company would be worth a lot more today, and I probably won't be pausing this capital raise we were doing. But on the other hand, maybe it wouldn't be the same company we are and accomplish the things we have. So there's a line you have to walk, but you need to be clear on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. So I know for me, people always ask to be like, what are you doing? What's it look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And I used to say, I don't know. And that was causing me to not make decisions or make wrong decisions. So you have to know what the end game is so you can start making the right decisions today, because it does take time to put all those pieces together. For the listeners who want to be able to connect back with you, what's the best way for them to learn more about you or be able to connect with you? Yeah, LinkedIn's the best place to go. Just hit me up on LinkedIn, search Tyler Robertson or Tyler Robertson Diesel or Tyler Diesel. I'm sure I'll come up on there. I've literally, since that first month or two, I've posted on LinkedIn once or twice a week, sometimes more, on my journey. So it's been a fun ride. I've connected with so many people on there. Honestly, they're probably the best networking tool I've ever used, podcast being right behind it. So they're great platforms. Awesome. Appreciate your time today, Tyler, and sharing a bit about your story. Yeah, thank you very much.